Have you ever thought about a seed? Good seeds are little things that, if planted at the right time, the right place, and are tended to, become huge blessings down the road. Whatever seeds you're sowing today, seeds for your future, for your family, for your faith, or for actual food, you're at the right place. Welcome to the Sowing Seed Podcast. Now, here's your host, a former Air Force pilot, pizza delivery man, and gumball machine guru, Matt Miller.
Failing doesn't make you a failure. When I went to the Air Force Academy for college, for those of you that don't know, it's a military school like West Point or Annapolis. It is essentially a four-year college. Those that graduate end up serving as officers in the United States Air Force for a period of time in exchange for essentially a full ride scholarship at the school. Well, when I got to my junior year at the academy, I wasn't quite sure what I wanted to do with my career. I wasn't one of those guys that had wanted to be a pilot all my life. So I was open to options until I found out that if you were medically qualified to fly and didn't want to, you had to go and talk to the three-star general and explain to him why you didn't want to be a pilot even though you were medically qualified to do so. I didn't want the FaceTime, and so I ended up deciding not to try to pursue something else and decided to be a pilot. Well, part of the training that you have to go through at the academy, at least back then, before going on to pilot training, is you have to go through what was called T41. It was essentially flight screening in the Cessna 172. And you could either do it as a summer program or you could do it as an additional, after school activity, essentially on top of your full course load. Well, I ended up taking T41. I think it was junior year, if I remember right. I don't remember exactly when. It all runs together today. But anyway, I'll never forget that I got into that flight room there at the Air Force Academy down at the field down the hill from the academy grounds itself. And we went and sat in our very first briefing with all the students and all the instructor pilots there. And one of the things that we would do each time that we had our briefing was we do what's called stand-up. And stand-up was the chance to give each student throughout the training an opportunity to get in front of everybody, to stand up and to talk through an emergency procedure that was thrown at them and essentially role play with the instructor that's heading the brief. Now, I had no flying background. This whole thing was new to me, and I happened to be the very first one called on to do the very first stand-up in the first briefing I was in. Well, the scenario was that I was in the Hammerhead and I had a light come on. I don't remember, it was an engine failure light or something. I don't remember the details of it. So I got up. Well, I didn't know what the Hammerhead was. The only thing I'd ever heard of Hammerhead when it came to flying was something called a Hammerhead stall, I think. So I assumed that I was in the air. I assumed that I had been in a stall, and I started talking myself down, going through all the steps to get there and land. Well, the snickers from the instructor pilots and the fellow students who had a flying background were pretty incredible. I still think about it to this day. I failed miserably in that stand-up. I went on in T41 and ended up going to 2 FPCs, final progress checks. Essentially going through a check ride and them deciding if I was fit to be a pilot and fit to fly and move on and go to pilot training after graduation. Twice I went to FPCs, and in both cases the guys questioned whether I'd be able to make it through pilot training, but gave me the benefit of the doubt and passed me through. One of the instructors said that his thoughts were that I probably wouldn't make it solo in the T37, which is the first airplane that students would fly in their first 6 months of pilot training. See, one of the challenges that I had, aside from the fact that I had a 20-hour course load that semester, was the fact that I don't have a mechanical bone in my body. And we were given this thing called the -1, which is a big binder that explains all the systems and the procedures and everything of the airplane. Well, I didn't know or understand any of it. And in T41, we were just kind of expected to read it and understand it and learn it and then apply that knowledge. We had some discussions with our instructors, but the reality is most of our time was spent learning how to fly. It was not spent in discussions on the -1. Well, I don't even know how to change the oil in my car still to this day. So for me to understand a hydraulic system or an electric system or, some of the types of systems that were on even a Cessna 172 was really, really, really difficult. Here's what's amazing though. I graduated from T41. I graduated from the Air Force Academy, and I entered into class 9013 at Reese Air Force Base in Lubbock, Texas.
Thank you for listening to the Sowing Seed Podcast. If you enjoyed today's episode, please leave us a 5-star review in iTunes or your podcast player of choice. So until next time, go plant the seed you need to succeed.